Hey there, this is Emma Green. I'm a staff writer at The Atlantic where I cover religion. And with me today is Bishop T.D. Jakes, who runs the ministry, the Potter's House in Dallas, Texas, and is one of the most prominent pastors in America, here to talk about the role of faith and happiness. Bishop Jakes, I wonder if you could tell us a little bit about how your faith life has changed during the pandemic.
I think it has become more practical, more pragmatic, in the sense of it loses some of its euphoria with the onslaught of tragedy and adversity, and becomes more a place of refuge than it had been before. Before it was more a catalyst for accomplishment. Now it becomes. An instrument through which I have the assurance that ultimately things will work out the way they're supposed to.
Are there rituals that you've incorporated or practices that you've tried to develop to seek that refuge that you're talking about?
Well, you know, the Bible says that faith is the substance of things hoped for. And so, in order for faith to have something to cling to, we have to be in touch with what we're hoping for. And I think adjusting our expectations to an appropriate level that is not influenced by either our experiences or what we see other people doing or having, where we expect certain things out of life and we take them in stride rather than to try to control everything that is happening around us. Is very, very helpful in becoming more happy as a person.
Hmm. I wonder, as a person of faith and a pastor, whether you think happiness is even the right goal for what people should be seeking. Do you think that that really resonates with people, or is there something deeper or different that you would describe as kind of the ultimate striving of a person of faith?
I'm so glad you said that because the word happiness handcuffs me a little bit because the root word is hap. That means something has to happen, in order for us to achieve happiness. And it's an awkward word for a person of faith to use. I would prefer to use the word peace. Uh,
Hmm.
and peace would within itself bring what we call happiness. And in order to attain peace, one has to be at one with yourself, not arguing with yourself, not divided within yourself, uh, not conflicted on the inside. And in order to do that, you have to shut out all the outside voices and look within. And there are periods where I fast from media, from all contaminants, from the phone, and just try to find my center, go back to my core, go back to, I think gratitude is such an important instrument for peace to thrive in. Looking at the things that are working and looking at the things that we're grateful for and listing those things have been influential in my own life. And as a pastor, we have a proclivity to be drawn to people who need us, but an oversaturation of people who need us without balancing it with people who feed us.
Hmm.
And then the third category is people who just know us. They neither feed us nor need us, they just feed us. The people who need us are making withdrawals. The people who feed us are making deposits, which keep us from bankruptcy, where we bankrupt emotionally. And then people who just know us, neither feeding us nor needing us, but reminding us not to take ourselves too seriously, to laugh and talk and not solve all the problems of the world in a day. Living within that triad of need, feed, and know us is a place of peace and tranquility. Often we don't make room for people who feed us, and disproportionately, the people who need us consume us. And then for people who just know us, from which we have no need for pretense or performance, just presence. Uh, Quite frankly, my wife has been very helpful in teaching me to appreciate a presence over being a present to people. Just being present, present in the moment, present in the situation. When you're at home, really be there, not to be at work while you're at home, which is kind of funny because I'm at home and at work right now. But at a certain point, I will end all of that and really be at home and do things that reinforce that we are at home, and just where our presence is the gift. There's nothing to be won, nothing to be lost. Just being present is enough. The release of that demand is quite peaceful, and it allows the soul to refurbish itself, and then making sure that we are fed. And when I say feed us, I mean spiritually, I mean intellectually, I mean emotionally, I mean psychologically, to attend events where we don't have to perform, where we're exposed to different points of view and perspective, things that feed us spiritually, things that feed us emotionally, being affirmed that we're in a loving environment, which costs absolutely nothing. You can do it anywhere, regardless of your income, your status, your race, your level, or your politics. Those sorts of things that are void of perspective. Just a simple feeling of being fed emotionally is very, very important. But I found out that if you don't schedule those things and those people and those interactions into your day, the people who feed us have a tendency of jumping onto your calendar. The people who need us, rather, have a tendency of jumping on your calendar. The people who feed us are not going to force their way into our lives. We have to create spaces, and then have the awareness to notice, gosh, when I'm around this person, I feel fed. I'm stimulated. I'm motivated. I'm uh, I'm more fulfilled. And to notice that, and to earmark that, and to schedule those interactions into our lives is important. And then those people who neither deposit nor withdraw, they're just hanging around us, reminding you of just the simplicity of being there and being present. All of that, to live within that triune of ideologies, is very helpful in creating a climate of peace and tranquility, which translates into what we call happiness. But happiness in and of itself, it leaves the impetus on something to happen and for which I am happy about. And so you're going to be schizophrenic because you can't always control whether something is going to happen that makes you happy or not. But peace is something you can have in the middle of a storm.
Yeah. I wonder your perspective on the lessons of the Bible in how people live and what brings about that peace. Jesus in the Bible was a man who threw off wealth and trappings of material life. He hung out with lepers and prostitutes. He was very much someone who humbled himself in order to find that sense of spiritual elevation, to sort of live out what he thought was a godly life. And I wonder how important you think material wealth and goods are to our happiness, or whether those are distractions or get in the way of our pursuit of peace.
Well, first, I want to make sure that we understand that Jesus was pretty well rounded. He did associate with the have-nots, but he also associated with the people that have. And the Bible is filled with both instances where he surrounded himself with various types of people. Zacchaeus, the tax collector, who invited him to stay with his house, he had the ability to interact with them. Mary, Martha, and Lazarus, who were wealthy enough to be able to entertain Jesus in his home, weren't necessarily poor people. But on the other hand, he did not shun the poor and the needy. And finding that balance where you can walk with kings and not lose the common touch, I think is very important. And it isn't the accumulation of things that is dangerous to our happiness, it is the love of those things. I often tell people God doesn't mind you having things, He minds things having you. And anytime you define happiness in terms of your environment, the level of life you live on, and I can only be happy if I have this kind of car, that kind of car, then they become idols in our lives. And it contradicts everything that matters spiritually. Anytime we allow the things that we have, our gross income, our wealth, our notoriety, how people talk about us, to become the substratum of where our happiness comes from, we're gonna be setting ourselves up for disaster. And I think it's important that we have a well balanced life, that we touch all levels of people, that we interact with them, recognizing that at the core, they are all people, regardless of their income and regardless of your income. And Paul said, I have learned whatever state I'm in, therewith to be content, whether to abase or to abound. He said, I've learned how to be content when things were going well externally, excessively so. I've learned how to abase. I've learned how to do without those things because my peace is not predicated on either extreme. It's not like I can only have peace if I'm poor. I can only have peace if I'm hungry. I can only have peace if I have no gas money. I can only have peace if I can't send my kids to school. We don't want to glorify poverty no more than we glorify wealth. What we want to do is have something, a peace that transcends the fluctuations of life. And Paul said, I've learned whatever state I'm in, therewith to be content. So contentment is not predicated upon what's up, what's above us, what is affluent. But on the other hand, the myth that peace is predicated on poverty only means you've never been poor. I've been both, and being poor does not necessarily mean you're at peace if you can't feed your children. So having our needs
Right.
met, having those needs realistic, but not allowing ourselves to come to the point that we are seekers of things more than seekers of God is a mature thought that a spiritual person needs to have in order to be able to flourish, because their 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 peace is not predicated upon their position at that time. Positions fluctuate. You can have a job and lose it. You can have a house and lose it. You can have a friend and lose them. Those things fluctuate in everybody's life. And what Jesus teaches us is how to go in and out and find green pastures, how to make yourself content in moments of lack, how to make yourself content in moments of abundance, and to, because neither one of them are your center. You are centered from that which is spiritual and not that which is tangible, regardless of which way you go.
Well, may we all have more days of abundance ahead, especially after this really challenging year. Thank you so much, Bishop Jakes, for joining us and sharing some of those reflections.
It's a real pleasure. Good to see you.